Hello, welcome back to my channel. I thought I would do a video today discussing all things fibroids, endometriosis and things like that. I just want to give a couple of disclaimers. Any background noise as per is my orange cat, because I have an orange cat, and if you know about orange cats then I don't need to explain further. I also just want to give a trigger warning that in this video I will be talking about mental health, body image, blood, female reproductive health. So if any of this is triggering in any way, please don't watch this video, because I'm going to be talking quite open, frank and honest in this video. Okay, and last disclaimer, I've had to write down everything on here so I don't forget it. Yeah, I've been meaning to do this video for a very long time. I've just wanted to get to a point where I felt like I had enough information and knowledge to make it worthy of video. But I'm going to be talking about my journey to getting diagnosed with endometriosis and fibroids. I have found watching video of real life people who are experiencing it really beneficial. Even if you're just watching a video and you relate and it makes you cry, at least you're releasing that emotion. I just find it more human and personal to watch someone else talk about it who's going through it, rather than a healthcare professional or just a list of symptoms on the NHS website. So hopefully this is useful. I also think it's useful to just be educated in things like this because it isn't talked about enough. I won't go into too much detail on what these things are, because if you're on this video you might already know, but if you want to do further research then obviously YouTube search or Google search what is endometriosis, what is fibroids. In short, fibroids are non-cancerous growths made of muscle and tissue that exists around the womb. 1 in 3 people experience symptoms including heavy and painful periods, back pain, pain during sex, going to the toilet more frequently, constipation. These things are quite common. However, a lot of women have them and don't experience any symptoms. So there you go. Endometriosis is a disease in which tissue similar to the lining of the womb grows outside of the womb. This can happen anywhere in the body and there's no cure for it. It's pretty hard to manage, but some people do. There are a lot of symptoms for endometriosis, but the most common ones are excruciating and severe pain during periods or pelvic pain at any point in the month, bloating, painful sex, back pain. There's so many symptoms. There isn't much out there in terms of educating people on this, so I do encourage people to do their own research. Educating people is vital, because it is one of the hardest things to diagnose, and it also takes people years and years to even be diagnosed. And the scary thing I think is that you will know a lot of people who have it who don't even know they have it. I have been conditioned to just deal with periods. I for the longest time just assumed that having excruciating and debilitating periods was normal, because most people have, you know, some kind of pain in their periods. But I think what a lot of women like me, or people who have periods like me, experience is becoming accustomed to the pain. So I have a really high pain threshold, so the pain I deal with that I can manage. If somebody who had never experienced period pain before was to have it, they would be in A&E, and to be honest I have also been in A&E numerous times because of my periods. But anyway, so I live in England and therefore I am under the NHS. I started my period when I was around 11 years old, so I was pretty young. They have always been heavy since the very start. I've instantly had heavy periods and painful periods that have just over this last 17-18 years have just got worse and worse and worse. I was first taken by my mum to the GP for extreme period pains when I was 12 years old, so I was a child. It was then that they put me on mefenamic acid, which helps pain, and norethisterone, which I'm probably saying wrong, which helps when bleeding. But yeah, like I said, I was 12. I was a child and I was put on medication for my periods, and no one thought to question anything. Since then, I have been on and off those medications. I have also been on tranexamic, is that how we say it? Tranexamic acid as well, which is something to slow down bleeding. For me, it works, but it goes from having periods so heavy I need to go to hospital to just periods so heavy I just have to change my pad a lot. So I'm just going to quickly go through a lot of symptoms that I have, just to make it clear. Obviously people experience different symptoms. You can have a load of different things wrong with you and not have any of the symptoms, so These are just personal to me, just in case anyone relates. The symptoms that I have for my periods start 2 weeks before I start my period. They include hot flushes and sweats, dizziness, fatigue, abnormal hunger. I think a lot of these are very common. Low mood, crying a lot, pelvic pain, back pain, and bloating. So they're all the things I have 2 weeks before my period even starts. And obviously the more common one with your hormones bouncing everywhere. Like if I'm on my period and I'm not taking all the medications I take now, I bleed so much I'm unable to move from the toilet. I'm unable to leave my bedroom. I'm unable to leave my apartment for the first 4 to 5 days of my period. They are that heavy and painful. The amount of blood is insane. The clots are huge, like that big, and often as well. If not, I am changing my like pad. I have to have like the nighttime pads, and they are changed every 10 to 30 minutes. Very often my husband Faisal has had to peel me off the floor because I cannot get off the floor because the pain is that severe. It is debilitating, it is life ruining. That might sound dramatic, but that's just what it is. It is ruining my life, and I'm not alone, and that's the sad thing. There are millions of us. The fatigue is like something I've never had before. The nausea means that I can't really eat on my period, and when you're on your period you need those nutrients, you need iron, you need broccoli, dark chocolate, all those kind of things, and I can't do that. So yeah, if you're in a situation where you live on your own, or someone like me whose partner is away a lot, very often I've had times where I just haven't like eaten for days because I just physically can't move to eat. Headaches is another massive thing. The headaches are horrendous. As it stands, I'm currently on 3 different types of medications to kind of make my periods a little bit more normal. They don't make them normal, they just make them go from hospital A&E worthy to somewhat manageable but still severe. That's a bit ridiculous. What's mad for me is for 17 to 18 years I have been constantly put on the same medication. It's just absolutely ridiculous. 18 years of being put on the same medication for my periods. Something's not working, because why do I keep coming back to the doctors? Why do I keep coming back for help? Why has no one in that 17 years thought, this is bizarre. She's having life debilitating periods here, and she's been on the same medication since she was a child. Maybe something's wrong.
Maybe we should send her for a scan or to see a gynecologist.
No one has ever said that. Women's health just is not taken seriously. So in 2020 my periods got so bad I could not work, and so I again was in touch with the GPs, and they decided that the best thing for me at that point was to put me on the Marina coil, which is like the plastic coil. Obviously whenever you go and see a GP, the first thing they want to give you is the pill, which in my opinion and a lot of other people's opinions is evil. You know, when you open up the leaflet that comes in your pill box and it's like, obviously they push and push you onto that. I do not agree with the pill. It makes me severely depressed, it makes me gain weight, it makes me miserable, it makes me hate myself. It just is just hell, which again is the same case for a lot of people. So yeah, we decided to go on the plastic coil. It was something that I hadn't tried before. The research I did on the Marina coil, the plastic coil, looked really good. I didn't want copper there, but then again also I don't want plastic there. But anyway, I had no choice at that time. I needed to go on something, and it was 2020 as well, so to even get an appointment to get the coil fitted was a miracle. So I had it fitted. The procedure was horrendous. They almost couldn't put it there. There were 2 nurses there and the doctor doing it, and they were like, the pain I had was absolutely horrific. However, I know a lot of people who have been in and out like that and they haven't really experienced pain, or they've kind of experienced a dull period type kind of pain. But the experience on the coil for me was somewhat positive. I wasn't bleeding heavily. I still bled every month, and I still had horrendous pain. However, the bleeding wasn't so bad that I couldn't work, so it worked for a bit. However, I personally just don't want anything there. I don't want to be taking anything that's affecting how my body should work every month. That's a personal preference. Anyway, in March of last year I decided enough was enough. I was in a position where I was, you know, discussing with my partner, you know, the possibility of having kids in the near future. So I decided to get my coil removed, and that's when everything kind of started again for me. I went to the GP, asked to have it removed. Obviously the first thing they say is, do you want to go back on the pill then? No, I don't. I just don't. Stop asking me. Whatever. So I have this appointment. I get it removed. It was actually a really easy process getting it removed. It only hurt kind of when it was happening. It felt a little bit like a smear test, which isn't as scary as it seems. Just another reminder, have your smear test, it can save your life. So I had it removed, and then I bled for 24 to 26 days. It was horrendous. I was actually on holiday at the time. So yeah, what happened was I bled through the entire holiday. I couldn't really enjoy my holiday because I was just in the shower, just absolutely tons of blood coming out of me. I was like walking around like that, like dizzy. It was absolutely horrendous. And I got home, I was ringing 111 most nights, being like, what do I do? Like, I just don't stop bleeding. They then sent out some medication for me, which didn't really do much. I think they sent out a stronger version of that medication, and eventually after about 24-ish, 26-ish days, I stopped bleeding. But during that time I was on my own in my apartment, and I couldn't walk to the kitchen to make food. I was that weak. I had lost that much blood, and that's when the whole thing kind of started. I had an in-person GP appointment around that time, which I had to beg for, and at that time I thought the GP was lovely. She was listening to me. I was thinking, oh my god, am I going to be taken seriously after 17 years? What? This is new territory for me. She said that she didn't want to refer me for a scan because she didn't think it was fibroids. So what she did was tried to push the pill on me again, and then referred me to the gynecologist. So that was in end of March last year. And then frequently after that, I think weekly, I was kind of trying to chase things, you know, saying this is now really starting to ruin my life. I'd gone from being able to work all the time to then only being able to work 2 weeks out of the month, because my symptoms and my period were that bad that I could only work 50% of the time. So because I had to have 2 weeks off every month, that 2 weeks that I could work, I was then having no social life. I was becoming very burnt out, so the fatigue was getting even worse because I was just slogging away just to try to keep up with myself. And when you are a performer, a creative, an actor, when the work comes, and you kind of have to, we don't have to be, you know, when you're freelance, you accept it because you don't know when you're going to work again. And because I had to block out 2 weeks of every month, I had to try and fit in as much in those 2 weeks as possible. And it then starts to take a toll on your mental health, because I was offered really exciting opportunities in those 2 weeks of the month I couldn't work, and I had to turn them down. And so that was really weighing on me. So my mental health started to deteriorate. Again, just trigger warning, we'll be talking about mental health and depression. I then spiraled into quite a severe episode. I think the worst episode I'd ever had in my life. Around this time last year, around April, May last year, I was at the point where I was on the phone to crisis teams because I was scared I was going to do something. And that was due to my periods being that bad and them being not taken seriously. So this isn't just a thing that causes a bit of pain and a bit of like low mood. This ruins people's lives, and I believe can end people's lives. So this is not, you know, it's just not taken seriously, is it? I then began chasing that same GP because nothing was happening, and she answered the phone and said, well, what do you want me to do? And I was like, oh, maybe your job, if that's not too much to ask. I'm laughing because if we don't laugh, we'll cry. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. For the past year, I have had numerous in-person GP appointments, GP phone call appointments, e-consults. I've been to the hospital, I've been to A&E numerous times because of how life-ruining and debilitating my periods are. In the end, one friend who's been amazing, you angel, said, well, have you had a scan? And I said, no, they won't give me one because I don't think it's fibroids. And my friend was like, what? So then started the procedure of asking for a scan, which then turned to begging for a scan. I was in A&E at the women's hospital, and a woman said, yeah, sorry, I can't refer you for a scan, I can't do that. And I was like, well, why can't you do that? Just, can you make a note to my GP or whatever? Yeah, no, we can't do that. It was like 3 AM in the morning. I left, like Faisal was holding me up. I was like wailing, crying. I was like, how can you not help me in any way here? It's just a joke. This whole system, like health system, is a joke. How am I there begging, pleading, like desperately wailing, crying for help, blood absolutely everywhere because I was on my period, being told, yeah, we can't do anything. In fact, she said, I'll give you some iron tablets. I wasn't even anemic. I didn't need them. They just made me ill. And that is another thing as well. For a long time, I was not taken seriously because I wasn't anemic. So my bleeding is severe. As I had mentioned before, not to be too graphic, I cannot leave the toilet. However, the amount of iron I have in my diet is very, 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 very high. My iron levels are always really good. And because I'm not anemic, I think they don't believe that I'm bleeding as much as I say. Also, another thing that you may not get taken seriously is, how funny is this, right? So I've always been told, because I'm a healthy weight, you know, not smoking, all this kind of stuff, well, you're a healthy weight and you're not anemic. Okay, so what, am I just lying? On the flip side, I've got friends, on the flip side, I have got friends who are then not taken seriously because they need to lose weight. So you're not taken seriously if you're a healthy weight, you're not taken seriously if you need to lose weight. Yeah, so this woman said she couldn't give me a scan and then left wailing. She then called me up when I was in the Uber home to say, actually, I will refer you for a scan. Did that scan happen? It actually took me months to chase. Anyway, I got a phone call, said I had a scan booked in. No, they said they sent a letter for my scan. They didn't, because I didn't get it, or it got lost. Things always get lost, don't they, in this country? Like, I don't know. Yeah, so I eventually had an appointment for a scan. I then had the scan. It was quite a long scan. I think they were scanning me. How many times am I gonna say scan? It happened, it was about 10 minutes. They were actually doing the thing. I thought, God, this is quite a long time. They did an external scan and then they did an internal scan. So they did do a thorough scan, and then said that they would be in touch if they needed to. So I was waiting and waiting. I was chasing up, hearing nothing. And then it got to the point where I think my GPs were sick of me chasing, that they were like, right, we're just going to chase ourselves, because why haven't you heard? They couldn't get hold of anyone for weeks. And when they finally did, what had happened is my results had just been like sat there and no one thought to pass them on, even though we were asking and getting nowhere. So they were sitting on important scan results for me. I think it was 3 months. When we finally got the results, I was told I had a large fibroid. So I was like, oh, right, okay. It would have been nice if I could have found this out. If I could have had a scan a year ago to find this out. Anyway, found out. Myself and my GP were chasing up the women's hospital, trying to get some answers, like, what do we do next? Found out I've got fibroid, but obviously my periods are horrendous. What can we do next? The gynecologist appointment still hasn't happened. This is now, what, 8, 9, 10, 11 months into waiting. My GP then eventually had no other choice but to say to me, you are just going to have to go to A&E to get these results. So we went to A&E. We kind of said, in you know, very calm, just said like, we're not leaving until we get these results, because why won't you tell us these results, blah 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 blah. Found out the results. They didn't do anything. They were kind of like, yeah. We were like, okay, so what happens now? Like, what's the process? Nothing really. Like, you're safe to have kids if you want, get cracking. And we were like, all right, but that doesn't change anything. Sorry, it's just ridiculous. By that point, I had no choice but to go back on the pill, because I was now only having 7 days in the month where I had no symptoms. So I then had 3 weeks in the month of bleeding and symptoms. Only being able to work and function for 1 week of a month is ridiculous. So I said to Faisal, look, I don't want to go on the pill, but right now I've got no choice because I don't have a life. But obviously it did alleviate the periods. However, there are so many risks with the pill. I think one of them is you can get fibroids from the pill. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure we read that and thought, what? We still weren't getting anywhere with this fibroid news. So my GP again said, look, they're not listening. He could not get in touch with the secretary. They just weren't answering him, and I couldn't get through either. It was a joke. So then we were like, right, we're gonna have to go back to A&E. So this is what, the 5th time in the year that we'd gone back to the A&E there. And we were like, look, we're not leaving until you give us some kind of help. We have been begging for a year now for some kind of help with my periods, even though it's took 18 years. Anyway, whatever. They actually then started taking me seriously, which was weird. The staff there at that point were really lovely. They did like blood tests, they did an internal examination, all that kind of stuff, just to see if they could see anything there. A trainee nurse who was amazing and really properly listened to me. And I think the person she was learning off, they were there, and they went through my fibroid scan and they said, yeah, it's not a large one actually, it's small, but where it is in your body is close to, I think, the lining of the womb or something. So they basically said that was why my periods were so heavy and painful, is because I have a fibroid right by the lining of my womb. So I had this like wave of relief, almost like, oh my gosh, like, is that just it? Is this the whole reason I suffer, is because it's just a fibroid? I was like, well, can I get it removed? And they kind of didn't really answer that. All they kind of said was get cracking, having kids can kind of alleviate the pain for a bit. So the doctors, basically nurses or whatever, just basically told us to start having kids. So that was some good news. However, I still had in the back of my head thinking, but what if I do have endo? Like, why are they not then thinking, oh, well, wait for your gynecology appointment because you might have endo as well. There was none of that. There was like, yeah, you've probably not got it, just crack on. But you know your body, don't you? And I just knew that something wasn't right here. I knew. Isn't that a lyric? After that whole saga, I was kind of just managing my periods on those 3 different medications every month. And because I have another ongoing issue, thank you to our healthcare system, which if you know me, you will have heard of countless times, but I'm 6 months into a broken foot. That's not my fault. So, but you got to stay positive, haven't you? So yeah, I have another debilitating issue, which is the fact that I can't walk because I have a foot with multiple breaks in it. So after 13 months, I finally got a call from the Women's Hospital saying, hi Eleanor, you were referred to gynecology 13 months ago. Do you still want your appointment? Actually, no. No, I don't want it. I don't want it. Sorry, I get that that's just kind of the routine thing that the staff member has to say, but you've waited 13 months for something. Do you still want it? I said, yeah, go on, hun. I will take that appointment, thank you. And I actually got the appointment in really quickly after that phone call, and it was on the 23rd of April, 23rd of April, so last month. And it was the first time in 18 years that I had ever been validated, felt validated. The gynecologist was incredible. He took one look at my record, he asked me a few questions, and he was like, why on earth? First of all, he was like, what have you done to your foot? I was like, don't even go there. Don't even go there, because at this point, this is a legal case. Took one look at my notes, asked me a few questions, and was like, yeah, babe, you didn't call me babe. He said, you shouldn't be dealing with this. And I said, I know, isn't that funny? But there's loads of us. He said, this sounds horrific for you. I really think that you might have endometriosis. With endometriosis, I think the only way, or one of the only ways you can determine whether you have it is via laparoscopy. So he said, obviously I'm quite sure you have endo, but I'm only 50% sure because we need the laparoscopy to determine it. So he said, we're going to get you booked in. He obviously told me about the surgery and the risks and stuff like that, and then still asked me if I wanted it. I said, please, this is what I've been begging for. Oh, what a relief. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks of like just sitting down in that chair, and I didn't have to excuse myself. I didn't have to reiterate my symptoms. I didn't have to really go into detail, because he just listened to me and accepted it and believed me and didn't tell me something stupid like you're a healthy weight and you're not anemic.
That's referring back to my notes.
So in short, a laparoscopy is a major surgery performed under general anaesthetic, where a small incision is made, typically in the belly button. Carbon dioxide is then pumped into the abdominal cavity to swell it up, just so that there's more room to like for the telescope thing to see the organs. And minor problems may also be treated at the same time, so if they see a bit of endometriosis, they might be able to get rid of it there and then. The gynecologist also suggested a hysteroscopy too, which is just a 10-minute procedure. It's quite similar to that of a smear test, and that is for things like heavy periods, bleeding in between periods and things like that. As it stands, I have a fibroid and I'm waiting for my surgery appointment date to see if I have endometriosis. I just found a document from last summer, I think. It's for when I was in the process of begging for help, and I just want to quickly read it out because I read it and I found it quite upsetting, but this is why it's a good idea to keep a record of everything. So this is what I wrote. I think I wrote to read out loud in an appointment at A&E. I need help as soon as possible. My periods are extremely heavy and extremely painful. The bleeding and clots don't stop even after taking around 12 tablets each day to solve this. The pain is so bad I spend most of my days in tears. I am still waiting for a gynecologist appointment. I got told to chase in June, but there's still no luck now. I have been in touch with doctors for months asking for help. This is ruining my life. I cannot work for a week or more of the month, so I spend the rest of the time trying to catch up. This has resulted in me having further fatigue, stress, and having no social life. I am prone to severe depression and thoughts, and fear this will trigger me if not sorted ASAP. I take the max suggested dosage of tranexamic acid and medroxyprogesterone. However, I'm currently on day 5 and I'm changing my pad every 20 minutes, and I have to sit on the loo for hours at a time and let blood and clots pass out. The pain is so bad I'm in tears constantly. Normally day 5 of my period is when things start to slow down, but there is absolutely no sign of that, other than I am now able to walk without feeling dizzy. The pain is so bad I'm struggling to breathe. I feel like I'm going to be sick. I'm crying hysterically. I'm curled up in a ball on the floor and I'm constantly sweating and overheating. I've had heavy periods for 18 years now. It's affected my entire life and it's now caused me to slip into a depressive episode. And last time my period slipped me into a depressive episode, I had to call a crisis hotline. This was also due to my periods. My last period lasted 14 days. I had only a week with no symptoms. And the next week, the symptoms started again and I came on my period. I'm getting further and further into this hole that I can't get out of. I am exhausted for all of the month. I need a laparoscopy, please, I beg. So I think that was from June last year, maybe. When I read it earlier, I just burst into tears because whilst I'm further along on my journey, it's just kind of reiterated that I'm still kind of no further into having any sort of solution. Lastly, I know this video is super long and I know I've gone into a lot of detail and I've totally rambled, but I just kind of wanted to give the advice I do have if you are in a similar position or you know someone in a similar position or this could happen to you at any point. So with regards to contacting GPs, if you are in the UK and your GP uses the e-consult service where you log onto the GP's website and fill out the e-consult form, make sure you always click the box that says send me a copy of my answers because you might need that as evidence or further proof. It's just good to keep a record of things. You might never need it or you might think you might not need it, but trust me, because if something develops into a more legal case, you will need as much as you can get. So make sure you always keep a record. Keep a diary of all your symptoms. I found it easy to keep a video diary, so I have videos on my phone in a folder of me at certain points, which are quite hard to look back on. Again, with the videos, you've got the date on your phone, so it's like further proof if you need it. Also, it helps just keep track of what happens on what days. So the days you submit any consult, the days you have appointments, any Uber receipts. Keep the names. I know this is a lot to think about, but try as best as you can to keep the names of people you see. It's easy to get the names of your GP. You might be able to call up your GP and ask for the names of people that you've seen. If not, then you might be able to do it via, this is ridiculous, right? In order to get your results of things, they can't just print it off you. You have to do a Freedom of Information Act thing. Yeah, the more info you have, the better. If you have a document either on your laptop that you can bring with you or on your phone, I have printed my document off and I actually take it to every appointment with me. This is more so with my foot situation, but it's just good to have because you can get quite upset and overwhelmed, especially if you're going to an appointment on your own. You might forget something. So I have it printed out so I can just hand over my forms to the doctor or whoever I'm seeing and just be like, that's everything, so they can see. I've got photos on there, dates, names, doctors, everything highlighted, so it's easy for a GP or a doctor to just look through and see everything, and they'll find that it should correlate with what is on your record, because not everything is kept on your records, especially if you're going from different hospitals. But yeah, just as much as you can keep yourself. I'm aware of how exhausting that is to do if you're struggling with anything, but trust me, it will help, because even though I do all of that, it does help me get taken a little bit more seriously. But if I didn't have that, I dread to think where I would be with my period and foot situation. Lastly, and as sad as this is, and this video might come across at me just bashing healthcare professionals, it's not, because they've saved my life before, but don't just believe what you're told. I know that sounds horrendous to say, but don't take a first opinion on anything, because that has ended people's lives before. You need to get a second and a third opinion on everything. Don't feel like you're a burden. So Faisal and I have been given really snarky and nasty responses before when we've even just questioned something, but just don't let that affect you. I know it can be hard to be kind of treated like you're stupid or like you're insulting a healthcare professional by simply asking a question, but you're not. You've just got to be tough. You will get told one thing by someone, go to someone else and ask for another opinion, call another person and ask for an opinion. You need at least 3 opinions on every single little thing, because you will be quite surprised, or probably not surprised anymore, at how different the responses will be. Like me being told that I don't have endo, I've just got a fibroid in one place, and then the gynecologist saying to me like, why were you told that? This is in the same hospital, just 2 different departments, and I was told apparently the entirely wrong thing. So yeah, do not feel like you are wasting anyone's time. Do not feel like you are a burden. Your life is important, and your life in the current state in the healthcare system, unfortunately, just cannot be taken as seriously as you maybe would have liked, just because it's struggling and people are struggling, it's a really good idea to keep your friends and family informed as much as possible as well, because the more that people know, the more that they can help. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything, please comment them down below. I'm obviously not a massive channel, so I see everything and I can reply to it. I can do further videos on ways I manage my symptoms via the foods I eat and stuff like that. I will obviously do a video of like the laparoscopy and things like that. I'm aware that this video is extremely long, so I'm going to end it now. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this useful. Yeah, I'm sending lots of love and thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. Yeah, stay safe, stay hydrated, and lots of love to you. Bye bye.